How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Keep It Classy Tech. This video is going to be an update to the previous Samsung S95B QD OLED settings because of the 12.11 update that changed how Filmmaker works. So this will be the last settings video as well and should be good throughout the life of the TV. So we're going to start with some basic settings. We're going to go into General and we're going to go down to Power and Energy. Make sure you're in Filmmaker mode when you do this, because then it will apply to all the other picture modes as well. You're also going to check to make sure that your TV is up to date. Currently, as I make this video for 12.11, you have to do it by USB. Alright, then we're going to go to Input Signal Plus and just make sure those are all lit up. Very few devices would not need that or be incompatible with that, like old DVD players basically. So, Filmmaker mode is what we're going to be using. Movie is okay to use, but whatever mode you pick for SDR, it will be the same in HDR, so it's better just to have it in Filmmaker. Now for our brightness, we're going to actually have it a little high at 45, but that's because we're going to turn contrast down quite a bit to 25. Sharpness should be at 0, and we're going to knock color down just a couple clicks to 23. Tint should be at 0. Here you can have it applied to all sources. And then clarity menu settings, those are entirely personal preference. That's your motion settings, noise reduction. I personally recommend having it off, and even with it off, Samsung does force some motion smoothing as well as noise reduction and stuff in the background, but it will be the least amount if you have it off. Now, de-judder or judder reduction is for most of your content. That's your 24, 30, etc. Blur is for higher frame rate, so 50 or 60 FPS. If you wanted to, you could put your noise reduction on auto and then turn your motion settings all the way down if you just wanted noise reduction. But like I said, it already does that automatically with it off. Color tone, you want to use warm 2 for everything. However, I know a lot of people do prefer warm 1, so that's going to be a personal preference, but warm 2 will be the closest. There is a huge variance panel to panel. This particular one has too much green, so don't copy the white point settings. However, if you notice it's extra green, you might want to pull it down a little bit. For gamma, you want to use BT1886 and put it to -1. In SDR, we're just going to leave color space at 0, and we do not need to touch shadow detail settings. Smart calibration is the phone calibration. I do not recommend that at all. Because we turned down the contrast so much, we lost brightness. You're going to want peak brightness at medium, which is going to give you around 180 nits for SDR, and then if you have a really bright room, you could pump that up to high. So now we're going to go into game mode for SDR. Now you could leave it on auto, however, because I don't actually have a game system hooked up here, I'm just going to force it on. Here's your game bar menu. The input lag we're going to have fastest because I'm not going to use Game Motion Plus, but that's all that affects is your Game Motion Plus settings. If you like Game Motion Plus, the settings are right there, and you can toy around with them on like 30 FPS games. Under HDR tone mapping, there is no HDR 10 plus games yet, so we can have that off, but we're not going to worry about that till we get to HDR. So for our SDR gaming settings, we're going to have brightness at 50 and contrast at 30. Going to leave color at 25, tint at 0. Your clarity settings are going to be disabled, and this does not apply to all sources, so you will have to check your other sources when you have multiple systems. Contrast enhancer, definitely recommend having that off. Again, the white balance, don't copy my settings for that because yours is going to be different. For color tone, again, warm 2, although some people like warm 1. Gamma, BT1886, however, this time we are going to go -2, and we're also going to push up the shadow detail +2. However, if that does raise your shadows too much, only go +1. For our color space, again, we're just going to leave it at auto for SDR. Now for our peak brightness, same with non-game mode, medium. However, if you like brighter for your game mode, go ahead and use high. Alright, now we're going to move into HDR, and we're going to start with the Filmmaker mode again. Like I said, if you had Filmmaker and SDR and you switched to HDR content, it will stay in Filmmaker mode. Now, because of the 12.11 update, Filmmaker mode is actually very good now, so we really don't have to do much. The only thing we're really going to do is we're going to drop our color down to 20, and we will explain that in a moment. Again, have this set to all sources, so you only have to do this once. Picture clarity settings, again, that's up to you and your motion preferences. Color tone, as I said before, should be on warm 2. And then now you can see we have 20-point settings in Filmmaker, which was not there before, but that should only be touched by a calibrator. Now going down more, we no longer have to make any changes to the ST2084 setting in Filmmaker, but we are going to go to Color Space Custom, and we're going to change the color gamut from P3 to BT2020. Now, this is why we have our color turned down to 20, because doing that will oversaturate colors, and turning it down to 20 helps to pull them back in. This is going to be a more widespread method. Using P3 with color at 25 will make a lot of colors technically more accurate. However, in content that goes beyond P3, you're not getting your expanded color gamut, and it can also cause some other issues. So just to play it safe for everything, use color at 20 and set it to BT 2020. Alright, now for HDR game mode, I'm going to turn on game mode, and now we're going to go down to HDR tone mapping. And I fully recommend having game HDR on all the time for all games. Having it off will make things clip more and have more tone mapping and not be as good. So we're going to turn that on, and then we're going to go into our settings. And now here's a personal preference thing for you to pick. If you have contrast at 50, it's brighter, but it does have more clipping. If you turn contrast down, you get a little more detail, but you lose brightness. So anywhere between 40 and 50 is going to be up to you. I settled on 45 as I find you get not a huge loss in brightness, but you do get a noticeable increase in your detail and highlights. Now, game mode has a much lower color gamut than movie mode for some reason. So we are going to, again, set it to BT 2020. However, it is also oversaturated even more in game mode, so we're going to have to do color 18. If you like color at 20 though, then that's fine too. And then we're going to keep going down. Contrast enhancer should definitely be off. Again, 2-point settings. You shouldn't copy those from another panel. Gamma in game mode, we do want to turn ST2084 down a little bit. However, we're not going to go too far with it or it will affect shadows. And we want to leave shadow detail at 0 in game mode now. Alright, so with our color space at custom, and we're going to select BT 2020, and we're going to leave peak brightness at high. Alright, and then that's it. That's really all you have to do for the S95B with the 12.11 or later update. Hopefully nothing gets messed up with another update later on, and that's it. So I hope this helps you. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.